Hey, Liz here. And okay, I was trying to figure out this live business and I think I got it figured out, which is super rad. Um, I was trying to do it on my phone, it wasn't working out. So I'm doing it on my computer. It might be a little harder to move my computer around, but you know what? What the heck? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do this because I'm really excited to show you how to warp kind of in live time, how you warp your rigid heddle, the little rigid heddle that I have, my little loom, and I wanted to show you. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, it's going to be tricky to show you this. Camera back here. I just finished this guy right here on my loom, and I wanted to take it off, and then I'm going to set it up and warp up a new project I'm working on today. So I'm going to take this one off here. And so to take this off, this is actually really good to know. I just cut right down the back right here like this. Be careful not to cut these guys right here because you need those to attach that apron rod right there. Okay, now my heddle is free, which is good. I can take that off. This is my favorite part of weaving is revealing what I've made. And because of the way that I weave, it's so different. You don't know because there's no pattern. It's just like whatever I want to do, I do. So let's see if I can get this in a good view for you. Oh, I'm so excited. I am working on, don't tell my sister, but I'm working on making her a skirt for her birthday, which I've never made before, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. This is one of probably at least 4 to 6 of these cloths, these pieces of cloth or fabric that I need to make. Okay, to take it off this side, I've actually played around with different ways to do this, but the easiest way that I've found is simply just taking off these, I forget what this is called, to be honest with you, but take these off. They hold the apron rod on. Pull this off, and boom, you've got it off of your head or off of your loom, which is super, super good. Okay, so what I do now is these ones right here, I'm actually going to leave in. I take this over to my sewing machine and just sew a line straight down there and straight down on this side also, and then I can trim because I already know what I'm doing with this fabric. If you don't know what you're doing with your cloth or your fabric yet, what I recommend doing is tying knots on it. Then you kind of have options later on when you decide what you're going to do. But for now, I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to fold it up and set it aside gently so that I don't unweave or take this out. So just going to be careful with it. And I'm going to set it aside for now as I get ready to warp on my loom here. Okay, so to set up and warp on my new loom, let's see if I can do that. Oh, that helps. The first thing you want to do is put your apron rod back on here. So doing that, and you don't need this side right now, but it's good to have. Okay, so something important to note. I'm trying to think if I can do this at a different angle. Bear with me as I figure this out as I go here. Okay, on the little loom here, you have a back and you have the front. So we're going to put the back towards the back here of my table where I'm setting this. And then I have this clamp, this wooden clamp that opens up, and I'm going to attach it back here to my table. Now, down on the other end, where I'm going to show you in a minute, I have a pole, a clamp with a pole on it. And when I directly warp this, I'm going to put my heddle here, and I'm going to put the yarn straight through this guy right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But you want to make this as even as possible to where the pole is on the other end. And that way you don't have issues with your tension on your warp kind of getting messed up. Okay, so I'm just gonna attach this right here, tighten that down. I'll show you where I put the clamp here in a second. Now, when you're doing this, you kind of need a little bit of space. I am making this warp about 8 feet long. So that is definitely one of the, not problem, just different thing with this loom is you can't make a super duper long warp because you'll have a lot of um, yarn right here, and that can be very bunched up. So just keep that in mind. You're working on a little loom. You only can make about 8 to, I don't know, 12 feet long at a time, which is fine. Deal with it, figure it out. Okay, one tip I like to do is I like this right here. I don't want it to move around when I'm warping. So I just use a couple of rubber bands here. And I put them over the top of this heddle right here, like this, so that it doesn't move as much, which it's, you know, it's okay that you don't have those on, but it's just nice to have it on. Okay, now let me show you the pole that I'm going to be warping to is over there. Do you see it? And this will make more sense when we start the process here. I'm trying to think where I'm going to set my computer when I do this. Maybe over here. Please don't mind the kind of messy studio I got working with there, but I'm gonna move a couple things around. Boom. Okay. There's my loom. I'm gonna be coming to this pole that I have set right here. Let's get going on this. Let me show you. Okay, so I've got this attached. It's even here with this, and I have back here. Oh, I want to show you this before, just so you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about. Right here, there is an apron bar. Not easy to do on my computer. There's an apron bar right here. That is where I'm going to be putting the yarn through. Let me set this right here for now, so you can kind of maybe see what I'm talking about. Okay. So I made this holder a while ago. It holds my yarn on it, my cones of yarn for when I warp and when I wind bobbins. It's very handy. Only just 3 little dowels I put into a board really easily. So I have that. I already know what I'm going to warp with, which is basically the same colors that I used on my last warp. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the color I'm going to start with, which is this like hunter green color, and I'm going to tie it up here, just a knot like around the pole. Okay, and my apron rod's right here. Let me just show you that so you can kind of see up close. See, I've tied this knot right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to put it through my heddle. I always skip the first one through my heddle. I'm trying to see if there's a better way for you to see here. So I'm going to put it through my first heddle here. Okay. And then I'm going to just take this down all the way to my pole down there. Okay. Let me show you what that looks like. So there it is through the heddle. And then I've got it down all the way over to here. And there's the pole over there. Okay. Now I'm going to put this up. I think this might be a better setup for you to see as I do this. So once you go down to that pole, you just kind of want to put some tension a little bit on it. And then you just come back and you go through it again. And back. And I'm just going to go and back and forth like this. If you have somebody that is a child, a husband, a friend that wants to help you with this part, it does go faster. But this shouldn't take too long at the same time. But basically, you're going to go back and forth like this. And you're going all the way down to that pole and back. And I'm just walking back and forth here. And then the cool thing about direct warping like this, one of the cool things, is playing with different colors and different patterns. Okay, so I'm going to do that many, and then I'm going to actually cut this, and I'm going to tie it in that same knot like I did before around that back apron rod. And then I'm going to change colors. So now I'm doing like a light green, very light green. It's almost like a white with a tint of green. And you can even skip on the heddles if you want. So right now I'm just going through what's called the slot on the heddle. So on a heddle, if you don't know, there is all these slots on this rigid heddle. On rigid heddles, this is how it works. There's all these slots, and then right next to it, there's a hole. So it goes slot hole, slot hole, slot hole, just like that. And the reason why is because after I'm done doing this part, the second part of it is winding all of this yarn that I'm putting over the pole onto the back here of the loom. But then I'll be pulling through to those holes. So one will be through the slot, and this will make more sense when I'm actually doing it. But one through the slot, and then one through the hole. And that will give you that up and down when you are weaving, which is something that I honestly did not understand when I first started weaving, but now it makes a lot more sense to me. So it is really fascinating how weaving works and all the different ins and outs, patterns, and different things that you can do. The type of weaving that I do is very organic, very just like, I mean, look at what I'm wearing right now, right? It's kind of like whatever color scheme I'm thinking, whatever I want to do, I just kind of do. I don't love following a pattern. I've never been that way. When I discovered this type of weaving, I literally like opened my mind to so many possibilities, and I just can't stop. Every time I'm weaving, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this with it. I'm going to do that with it. I can make this piece of clothing. It's just super fun. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you would know that I just made some cloth, and then I went to a workshop and I learned how to sew better on my cloth, and I made a handful of things, and it's seriously just so much fun to try all these different patterns and ideas. It just, I don't know. For me, it's like once I start being creative, the creative juices flow a lot more. And if I'm stagnant or not creating or not in a creative like mindset, oh man, it's like I'm really stuck. So definitely creativity feeds off of creativity. And if you get out of that cycle, sometimes it's hard to get back in it. Okay, so could you see how it'd be helpful to have a second person helping you do this? I definitely can. Just because my friend I was actually helping her warp one day, and she's like, "Here, let me be your silent sister." And I was like, "What is that?" And she's like, "I'll be the one that goes back and forth while you put it through the slots." And let me tell you, very helpful when you're doing this. I'm almost done though, so all good. Only have, I don't know, 5 more maybe here that I'm doing. One thing that you can do, and I've done this lots, is depending on what you're making, what project you're working on, or what cloth you want. This rigid heddle is obviously very small. The max size that you can make your cloth width be is 8 inches or 20 centimeters. And so I know that's not very wide. Like, a lot of experienced weavers would be like, that's tiny. Why would you even waste your time? Well, I've learned that I love this size and I can just sew 2 pieces long ways together to make it wider if I need to. But one of the reasons that I do love this size is of loom is you can actually make things even skinnier if you want. You know, if you want to make like a belt or a camera strap or a scarf, and you don't want it to be as wide, or a coaster, um, you can do it skinnier, right? So you can do only 4 inches or 6 inches and not a full 8 inches. This time I am making it a full 8 inches. Whew, I'm like out of breath from walking back and forth. All right, got these all on here. I'm going to take you back over here so you can see. So yeah, they're all around this pole right here, okay? And the next step, a lot of people think is kind of scary, but it's not. But first, before I do that next step, okay, I'm going to, it's pretty low, but I'm going to cut this one right here. Cut this one, tie it onto this back pole here. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Oh, it's raining outside again. Okay. So there it is all along the back pole or on that back apron bar. And you can see down, it's connected all to that pole down there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off. So the first thing you do is you take it off of this, which when the first time I did this, I was like, I don't want to, I'm scared I'm going to do something wrong. No, you just cut it like that. Seems scary. It's not. That's all you do. Okay. Then I have my yarn laying here, but it's all nice and perfect around there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, let's see if this will work right here at this angle, is I'm going to take these papers. This is cardstock. Just a piece of cardstock that I've rolled up. I have had it cut off, just like, I don't know, a couple of centimeters, maybe a centimeter or 2 off, so that it's exactly this same width. Okay. Now what you're going to do, when you have 2 people, this is helpful also, but it's fine when you're by yourself. I figured it out. Okay, you got to take the rubber bands off that I put on to hold the heddle, because I'm going to be winding this back here. Okay. So I knew I needed to sneeze. Okay. So you're going to start winding this back here. And the reason that you use these papers is because you don't want your yarn, when you are winding it around this back pole, you don't want it to slip through and like not be even. So you keep them on top of each other. And the best way to do that is actually by putting a paper through, and so they stay at the same tension. And that is really important when you're weaving, to have the same tension, or believe me, chaos happens. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I know I keep moving you, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I've wound this around here just like a whole rotation. And now I'm going to put this paper in here like this and kind of grab it and then roll it around. And then at the same time, I'm going to grab these strings, this yarn up here, and kind of hold it with a little bit of tension as I wind this on like that. And I do it just so it's just past where that paper started. Okay. Then I'm getting another paper and doing the same thing here. You can leave a little bit of space between each paper, but you know, maybe an inch or so. And then you put on the next paper. Again, I'm holding tension, and you can see this. You want this to be nice and straight, and you want to make sure that there's no yarn going off these sides here. Keep it where there's a little bit of white space or a little bit of space between where the yarn is and where the edge of the loom is. And the reason why is because if yarn slips down into this crevice over here, again, your tension on the edges will be no bueno, not good. And that's happened to me. When I first started weaving, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was like a big issue. And it is. Lots of issues that I had with a few warps that I did. Okay, I need more of these papers. You kind of go through a lot of these papers, but maybe like you keep the same ones every time. So I just reuse them over and over again. But I probably have 7 or 8 papers per time I warp this. Okay. So put that down. If you're new to weaving and you've never really done this before, the first couple times it's a little intimidating. But then you just get it down, and it's super easy and super fun to choose different colors and patterns and all of that. So the kind of yarn that I'm using for this is cotton. It's by a company that I really love their stuff. It's called Just Yarns. I really love the quality of their yarn. This is all called Mallow Slub, which is kind of like a slub is kind of like, it's not the same consistency the whole time. It like kind of goes thin and then fat and then thin and then fat. And I do really love that. Okay, I'm gonna get one more paper. Almost done, almost to the end of putting this on here. But just probably didn't even need that one, but okay. So I have that all wound on. I'm going to show you from this side. So now my yarn is nice and short here. There's the end of it. You want to leave a little bit, like maybe just to the end of this pole, the front post or so. And then you can see here, it's all wound right there. Let's see if I can wipe my camera off, because it's kind of dirty, and maybe it'll make it a little more clear. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so now the next step. Here we go. Let's see if I can show you. Okay, so I'm done with. Let me just get to my bathroom. Okay, pulling my chair up, because what I'm going to do is you're going to unclip it here. Where I had it clamped here at the bottom, I'm going to take that off. Don't need it right now. Done with that thing. And now, honestly, it's really, really portable because it's not attached to anything. It's just there. Okay. So now I've got my loom set where what I'm going to do is right now, if you can see, I don't know if you can tell or not, I have 2 strings, 2 pieces of yarn coming through each of the same slot. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to go all the way across here and I'm going to pull one of these through the hole. Okay. And I'm going to do that every single time because you want one in each slot and one in each hole. All right. So let's see if you can see as I do this. My hands don't get in the way. What I like to do is go and walk them back and forth so I can see if they're twisted over the top here. And I grab it with this hook and I pull it through. And then once I have those ones done, I put them through. Sometimes I put my rubber bands back on too because, oh, that rubber band just broke. Perfect. Let's see if I can at least put one of them on. Because it holds that heddle in place so it doesn't wiggle around. Okay, so then I do this the whole time, all the way across. And then I put them over to the left because then it's a mind check for me that I have that one done. And I put that over. You just keep on going. Okay, so let me just review a little bit with you as I do this. The first step is to get your warping thread, whatever you're going to warp with, out. And you're going to clamp your loom and your pole about 8 to 12 feet, depending on how long you want your warp to be. And you're going to put them 8 to 12 feet apart. But you want to try to keep it centered, your pole on where your loom is. Okay, and then once you have that clamped down, the first step is really putting all of your thread or yarn, or whatever you want to call it, through all of the slots. And you put it around that back apron bar. So that's step 1. And then step 2 is putting it, rolling it on to the back beam. And you do that with those papers, the cardstock papers, so that it keeps the yarn separated and nice and even. And then I'm on to step 3. And then after this step, there's only one more step before I can start weaving. So I'm already halfway done doing step 3. The first time that I warped, not only did I not know what I was doing, because no one had taught me how to do it, I learned off of a not great YouTube video, but I did it. The first time I did it, though, I literally messed up in multiple things that I did. I was so frustrated. It took me like 2 different sessions, 2 different days to try to figure it out, and a lot of taking out and putting back together because 2 reasons. 1, I could not figure out how to attach it to the front beam, which I'm going to teach you how to do today, which is right, like so easy once you actually see it. I could not get the tension right, and I didn't understand why. And it's because no one taught me, but also because I was just doing it so wrong. And once you know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so simple. And then the other thing that was so hard is I couldn't get a shed. And if you have woven before, or if you've done any sort of weaving, you know you got to have a shed, or you can't weave because it doesn't go up and down for you to put the warp through. So, okay, I have about a third or less left. That's the other thing. This loom is seriously so fast to warp compared. I mean, I can warp from start to finish. Obviously not when I'm trying to also show you how. Like maybe 20 minutes, especially if I'm only doing like 8 feet. Where I know on some looms, oh my gosh, like it's very technical. It can be very hard to do. Okay. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing here. But again, I'm just pulling these through so that there's one through this hole. If you're brand new to weaving and you are like, what is all this setup? The way that I like to teach people to weave is to actually have them just already on a loom that is warped for them, that I've warped for them, so that they can get an idea. And that's why when I sell these looms, they come warped, because nothing more frustrating than getting a new fun toy, crafting toy, and not be able to know how to use it. Okay, or be able to, and you got to figure all this out. All right, so I got them all through. So now maybe you can see they are through the holes and the slot both. So slot hole, all the way through. I like to go back and check that I didn't miss any before I do the next step, because you'll be messed up if you don't. Okay. So let's see if I can get a good view on doing the next step. I know this is backwards, but that's okay. All right. So the next step, so this is the last step that you're going to do, is you're going to be tying it on to that front apron bar. And if you remember at the very beginning of the video, this is where I did have all those ties and then that thicker pink string or yarn. So I like to do it in about inch increments. Let's see if I can. Maybe that's better. So I just try to go middle. I definitely don't measure. I just kind of wing it here. You could measure, or you could mark like the middle of your loom if you wanted. So this is the tricky part. So I'm going to try to make sure my hands aren't in the way. So what you do is you pull it tight, pretty tight. You put it over the top of that apron bar, and then you go underneath, okay? Grab it from the other side. So it's like this, and then you split it into two, okay? And then you go over the top, and I'm trying to do this so that you can also see, and you do 2 times under. So like you're tying your shoes, but instead of going once under, you go twice under. And the reason why, and I didn't know this, but it's called a surgeon's knot, and then you pull it tight. It stays better. That first initial kind of like tie stays better if you go under it twice, okay? So I start in the middle. Don't tie it in a bow yet. You're going to leave it right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come over to one of the sides. Doesn't matter if it's the left or the right, all the way over to the side, okay? And you're going to do the same thing. So you go under and then split it in two, go over the top, and then twice under, and then pull it tight like that, okay? And then you come over to the opposite side. So in my case, I'm going to the right. And again, you want to pull about an inch worth of yarn. And then you go under, split it, go over the top, and go twice under, and then pull it tight. Now, what you're going to notice is your tension's not going to be the same across, but that's okay. Just leave it. Just try to get it as even as possible. And then you go to the middle. So I usually just go back to the other side and go over, split it, and then twice around, and then pull it tight. Okay. And then I go to the other side. Okay. And then under, split it twice. And then I have 2 left. So then I'm going to go back to this side. And if you don't have exactly an inch or one's a little more than the other or a little less than the other, that's fine. Okay. Like this one, it's probably an inch and a half. It's fine. I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so over the top, split it in half, 2 knots. All right, now what you're gonna notice is they're not all even right now, okay? The tension's not the same. But the cool thing about these knots is that I did is you just go back and you just pull them. And you can kind of go one side to the other and you just try to get the tension as even as possible. And I mean, you could fiddle with this all day. So just try to get it like, you know, pretty good. Okay. And I just have like enough to tie like a shoelace, like a bow here in the amount I have left over. You don't want to waste your yarn, right? Okay. Pretty good. The other thing you can do, this is a little trick, you can push these knots kind of back and it tightens them up a little bit. And twisting them a little to get the tension as even as possible. Okay. Once you do that, then I go back and I just finish off that bow by doing kind of like the bunny ears. Hopefully that makes sense. You go back through. Okay. Why? I'm just trying to get the tension to be okay. Something seemed like it was a little funky right there for a second, but all good. So again, I'm just finishing tying these bows. After this, you can start weaving. And I like to do something that the girl that taught me how, the one that taught me how to weave, showed me, and I'm going to show it to you also because I think it's helpful for evening out. So let me just show you if I can show you a better view. So this is what it looks like when you're done tying them on. So this is the last step. Let me just show you on here on the one that I finished and pulled off at the beginning. These thicker strings, I'm going to use at the beginning. I have a bunch of these. I don't know, they're from an old project. So I just have a bunch of scraps, but the reason I like them is because they're a lot thicker and so it goes faster. But this is what you're going to do with it. So the first thing I do is, I'll take that rubber band off, is I check the tension, okay? Well, it's messed up clearly right now. I'm going to tighten this down back here. Okay, tighten down the front. You want it to be nice and tight to make sure everything's good. So remember, this heddle needed to be in the neutral position. So neutral position being back here. So you're going to put it up to the top position, and you can see I've got a shed, which is awesome because that's what I want. I check to make sure I have a bottom shed, also good. Okay, so that looks great. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to take my thicker pink string here, and I'm going to put it through like this. And I just leave the tail of it out, and then I don't even beat it. I just go down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go back through with this guy, and I just hand put it through. You could put it on a shuttle if you wanted, but and then I just lightly beat that down, and then I'm going to go back through here. So what this is doing is it's spreading out and evening out all those ties that I made, and they went like together here, and I want it to all be spread evenly. So if I take this thicker yarn, it goes quicker, and you can already see it's making a big difference here on spreading these out. So I'll probably just go one more time through here. Yeah, I'd say 4 or 5 passes is really what it usually takes to get going. And that should be good. So I'll put it back in the neutral position. I need to wind this back here against the back. So I'm going to undo my stoppers, my tension stoppers, and wind this forward here. Now, one thing, once you start going and you wind it back, your papers will start coming off the back. So keep those. Don't throw those away. You'll use them the next time you warp, okay? And then I'm just going to tighten down my tension. And then if you can see, you want to make sure that you don't wind this too far back this way because you need to leave room for you to be able to beat down when you start weaving. So I'm tightening. Maybe I should move this to this side so you can see what I'm talking about. This is my, these two things are the cog stoppers is what I call them. And I am just tightening this up because you want this to be like a little trampoline for your yarn to bounce off. Boom, boom, boom. And then, so it's nice and tight for you to put the shuttle through. Let me grab a shuttle. I just want to finish off by weaving a couple of rows so you can kind of just see what it looks like. But of course, I need to wind a bobbin real quick, so let me do that. So yeah, I'm weaving with the same yarn that I worked with. I'm adding a lot of little just funsy things to it though as I go. So let me just wind a little bit on. I need scissors. I really should. Where are my scissors? There they are. Okay. The other cool thing is how this rigid heddle comes with a shuttle and bobbins. Comes with a handful of bobbins. So I wound some on, got my shuttle, and you just stick it through. And I always tuck my tails in, so I put them right into the middle, so don't have to worry about it. And then I'm ready to move and groove. And boom, ready to work or to weave on this sucker and do a whole nother piece of cloth. I'm just gonna let me just finish this one off and then I'll show you what it started to look like from the top angle, so you can just get an idea. I always put it back into the neutral position if I need to make any adjustments on tightening it or loosening it, just so you know, so that this doesn't get messed up when you're doing it. Okay, but there you go. So I use this to help separate it. See, now these will just wind into. So the idea is back here, all my yarn will slowly come through as I weave and onto this front beam right here and end up with a nice piece of cloth to be able to make something with. In this case, I'm going to make a skirt for my sister, so don't tell her. It's going to be for her birthday. I'm very excited about that. All right. So I hope this has helped and you've learned something. If you have any questions, comments, anything, just put them down in the comments and I will answer them. So happy day, and we will talk to you soon.